It's early in the morning, and I just had the urge to come sit out here, uh, go over a little bit of what my mama would call words of wisdom. I like to call them wow. Words of wisdom. Wow. And so, this is what we do. I look at all of the conflicts in history, and I noticed that there's a lot of different causes for conflict, but there's a better cause for peace. You see, you gotta have two sides to fight a war, because when the people are used as the weapons, you take the weapons out of the equation. When the weapons are no longer in the equations of war, then they can't destroy us. They can't crush us. Peace. So as I sit back and I observe, I remember when I was a little boy, we'd be at the basketball court. There's always somebody that want to be unruly, ignorant, foolish, irrational, and hard to work with, right? So when we played basketball, what we would do is we take our ball and go. Take our ball and we would go home. This had a kind of odd effect that I noticed. Be a whole bunch of trash talk, but within short order, if a ball don't show up, everybody go home. They go on their separate ways. You know, you got some stragglers that sit around and stay where they at. Don't want to make no moves. They just want to stay stagnant, but that's fine. They still can't play ball. They can stay at the park on the basketball court, but they can't play ball without a basketball. And those who own the basketball is aware of this. They know this. But if the person who owned the basketball is unaware that he can take his ball and go home, and it would cripple the whole game, he don't have to tear nothing up. He don't have to fight nobody on the court. He don't have to fight the bully. He don't have to slap the little guy. All he had to do is just say, hey, man, get my ball. I'm going home. And he go home. Everybody going to be looking at him crazy. But guess what? Everybody end up going home if no other balls come. Now, expand that on a massive scale, like globally, right? Let's just say that America, no, let's say we don't even use country we in. We want to use two countries that don't got nothing to do with us directly. So let's say we take Brazil wants to attack India, and none of the soldiers are willing to fight in that war. None of them. Not a single one, from the generals to the foot soldiers. How the heck can we die? How can you wage a war when the tools of the war are inoperable? They don't work. You can't. It's impossible. Take your ball and go the fuck home. But you would have to have a call for a specific type of unity across various borders. You would have to have a call for unity that would embrace so many people that when people take their ball and go home, everybody go home. They already know what it's about. They already know what it's about. It's about the march to peace. And the march to peace sometimes is a family-oriented event. Go home. Play with your children. Kiss your wife. Hug your mama. Get wisdom from your father. You know? You don't have to always tear things apart, shred stuff. It's a reason for all of this chaos is because we keep allowing it. The easiest way to stop the foolishness and the ignorance, the easiest way, is all of the mothers tell your child, we ain't fighting for these animals, because they have to be animals to pit us together to fight us like animals. And if they're going to put us together and fight us like animals, they have to use something against us that would allow us to do that. And the greatest tool in the history of the world is divide and conquer. Now, we've been thinking that there's been one nation versus another nation in these wars. That's absolutely not what it is. It's never been in Germany versus France in World War II. That wasn't even the purpose. World War I, ain't got nothing to do with no Lithuanian ships. You know, got nothing to do with that. And it's population control by using the very people that you want to quell the population as the implements of war. They know that we like combat because we mastered the martial arts in all ancient cultures, because we wanted to learn how to defend our clans from invaders, no matter where they may come from. Here we are now, we on Earth. We look around and all we see is conflict, bloodshed, disunity, disharmony, backbiting, backstabbing, resentments, hatred, bigotry, foolishness, and ignorance. All that stuff in one pot, then they stir it up and feed it to us, and we eat it. We don't have to eat it. Every mother should just call her children in the military and just say, come home. We're not fighting for these animals. If we're going to have any type of conflict, we should be fighting in our own interest. Who's gaining? Look at the wounded warriors. See, we need to do something like to federalize this wounded warrior project. And right, but that's the whole point. It was a trick from the beginning. Okay, I'm gonna read this. Many nations that does not look like us came together against us and plotted against each other. Right, but see, that's the trick, because they used the minority population on the planet. By exalting the minority population, they got the smallest group. So at the time that the people of the mass realized that the smallest group is oppressing the largest group, then we can just annihilate them and get rid of the problem. But that was never the problem to begin with, because then they're going to go to the next smallest group and superiorize them. We can't fall for that. This is the end of them games. So it worked like this. Ain't no more white people that was created in this Babylonian experiment. The genetic mess up has been clean. That's over with. Now everybody have the capabilities of rising to their own level of greatness. Everybody. And because everybody can rise to their own level of greatness, we should all be able to pull this plank out our eye and see the enemy for who he is. If we trace it all back, it end up with one person. And you know, they want to tell us, you know, don't be anti-Semitic and all of this. It ain't Israel as a nation over there in the Middle East, because they pawns. They pawns. The Khazarians, the Ashkenazi, the Sephardi, those are pawns. Nope, those are not pawns. They're more like rooks and bishops on the chessboard. They bigger pieces, but they're expendable. So you got to track it back. Now, how do you track it back? You follow the dollar. You follow the currency, you find out who reaps the greatest benefit of all. Well, I used to think when I was a lot younger that it was the royal families of Europe. But then I came to, through research, to realize that it's not the royal families of Europe. It traced back to one particular house in one particular place in one particular person. And he wears a crown that represents 3 tiers, which is your economics, your military, and political strength. And also it represents your religious strength. By combining them all together, that's where your spiritual weaving comes in, your spider web. So if the world want to know who's responsible, you got to find out who's claimed right of all of the souls on earth to undermine the rights of the people who own their own soul. Now remember, your U.S. Constitution says, nope, your Declaration of Independence says that you have God-given inalienable rights. That means that nobody can't take them from you, but they can trick you out of them if you surrender them. They can trick you into giving up your rights. But there's somebody on this planet that filed paperwork in 1301 to capture the souls of the people. And it's the same one person that seats all of the royalty and confirms them and gives them the appearance of being the problem. Now, the royal families do have things that's going to be dealt with, like adrenochrome in the drinking of baby blood that's prohibited. And you don't know that Queen Elizabeth is not still alive. She's been dead. That's an imposter that they're using over there, so they don't want nobody to know. She's gone. And Pope Francis makes mockery of every single human on earth. He is the animal. I told y'all at the close of the age, I would pull the curtain off the man who stands behind it, pulling the strings in the land of Oz. His name now is Pope Francis, but it's the same symbiote who jumped body to body for thousands of years so he can survive eternally. And he wants to deprive you of your eternal life by allowing his host to live as comfortable as possible. But he have to have a certain biological signature trait. And this certain biological signature trait allows the symbiote to attach. Now, if you go back, you probably won't see it very far back in history, but when they see the Pope, they tell you there's a meeting of, what you call them, bishops, and that they are all in there voting and negotiating who would be Pope. That's cool. It makes sense, but it ain't true. You see, they got a period of time where they have to go through different blood types and genetic signatures in order that the symbiote can actually cleave to the host. And so they have a series of these hosts that sit there in a stasis-like state while the symbiote attaches through his eye into his brain. And there's a part of the brain that connects the two hemispheres, and this little symbiote lodges there. Now, I don't think the world should participate in this rotten, bloody mess anymore. You know what I think they ought to do? I think every head of state need to send me and my thugs over there so I can get that symbiote out of his head. All these kids don't need to keep coming home with arms blowed off, legs blowed off, holes in their body, bullets in their head, plates in their head. That's horrendous. That's atrocious. And it's unnecessary and uncalled for. But nobody wants to trace the issue of divide and conquer back to its source. People should love each other and should try to work together at all costs to overcome this unstoppable evil. But we don't want to do that because the evil turns us against each other, and it began with the Tower of Babel scenario. The Tower of Babel was there as a reminder of the problem and who caused it. So, when you go through the John Wick series, John Wick is a man in love with a woman that he met that got him out of a horrible lifestyle. And as you walk through this storyline, he ends up in part 3. Now, notice there's 3 parts to the John Wick story. And he goes into the desert, and here you have Maitreya. Here you have Maitreya. I told y'all he was the one behind the problem. I posted him in Africa deceiving people on my Facebook page so y'all can see exactly who's responsible for this evil that we are being subjugated by. Also, his pawn or his queen is the Pope. Check that out. His queen is the Pope. Now here's the analysis that you understand what you're dealing with. if you go back in history, you will notice that before 325, there was no such thing as what we call the Catholic Church because Christendom hadn't been established yet. It was established by Pope Constantine. Pope Constantine needed the believers, the faithful, the Almoravides, the defenders of the faith. He needed to capture them, put them in sequestered locations, and under the threat of death, they would have to come up with a common belief system in which they would install the papacy. They did that, but they left us clues along the way, breadcrumbs for us to discover this deception and expose this rotten beast for who he is. Now, the Pope is the queen, the seat that he's sitting in. This was originally called the Noon Priestess. They never changed them. They just called them nuns now. And the Noon Priestess was headed up by a woman who we know her as the Black Madonna. And a lot of people that understand the history of ancient Egypt will call her Isis, the queen of heaven and earth. That's her seat. I'm going to replace her back on her seat if the people want the tyranny of earth to end. Otherwise, I'm just going to go hang out with my peeps in the hood and do hood stuff. We're going to clean up the hood. I would rather clean earth up than to just focus on one local community. I didn't do all this studying for nothing. I couldn't rest in my soul until I found out who was responsible for this treachery. The one you call Yahweh in your Old Testament, that you call God now, is the same one that the Christ called Legion in the New Testament. And your proof is all in the book. When you go back to the tribes of Israel, one of the tribes is called Gad, G-A-D. If you know grammar, Grimm's Law of Grammar say all vowels are interchangeable in translation. The word Gad is your word God. When they translate it into German, it becomes the word Gut, G-U-T, because the D and the T is interchangeable. Also, in the vowel scenario, just like when you change your F and V's when you go from a knife to knives, it's the same law of grammar. So now we understand that Gad means a truth. Well, when he asked the demon, who are you? He said, we are legion, for we are many. That's saying the exact same thing. Now, the absolute verification is the Pope has declared himself owner of all souls on earth. And it's the same symbiote, it's just a different host. And he thinks that nobody's going to figure him out. I've posted him antagonizing and taunting the people of earth and doing exactly what the text say he would do at this time to expose who he is. He said that Satan is strong and the Christ has failed. Now he's supposed to be a representative of the Christ, but he's telling you Christ failed. Think about that. Don't believe me. Go check all this stuff I'm telling you out. You can just scroll my page and all the evidence you need is on my Facebook. It's not hard to find. Not only that, all of the signs say he the last pope. When you go through all of the historical records of prophecies about the Pope, that's it. Because he had to be exposed. And once he get exposed, the books say that the world would look and say, is this him? This one? Is this the one that had us all under this terror and treachery? Well, not exactly, but exactly that's him. He is the hidden hand behind all of the treachery and the wickedness on this planet. They go to JFK's speech, Separation of Church and State. I'm going to give you the historical background of that speech. The Separation of Church and State speech came about because Pope Francis being a Jesuit, and the Jesuit priesthood being the tyrants who come and put the pressure on the presidents and heads of state around the world in order to do the bidding of the Catholic Church. Mind you, this is not a condemnation of every Catholic priest, but the pedophile cult of priests, they all his. You want to see a righteous priest? All you got to do is go to Chicago. Father Pfleger fight for the rights of the people. So that don't mean that all of the Catholics are bad. See, that's how they get us, because they take a minority to shine a negative light on the majority. We done with that. This is a new era. We're going into the Aquarian age, the age of water, the age of spirit. And the Bible say that if you're going to worship the Creator, if you're going to worship, you need to worship in spirit and truth. Well, we're going into the Aquarian age. That's pure spirit. All we got to do now is marry the spirit of the Aquarian age to the fervor of the truth. Now, I wouldn't want no nation like to bomb the Vatican. That wouldn't be cool. I'd just take me a couple of these thugs and clear the land over there around it. I go in there myself, because I would like to drag that sucker out into the square, cut that symbiote out his head, hold it up for the world to see. That's what's been causing all the earth's problems for thousands of years. Thousands of years this little rotten bastard been causing problems. You see, it work like this. The Yahweh dude, he's calling himself Maitreya over in Africa. Scroll down my page, couple months, you'll see all the information, all of the verification that you need to prove exactly what I'm saying, so you don't have to just accept my word. One of my teachers said, if you're going to use right knowledge, you got to use the facts. And, you know, in the system we in, they believe in facts. And so, scroll down. Look. Tell me what you see. Maitreya was an ancient Babylonian deity that we call Enlil or Ninurtu. And he came down here and he took the reins from his brother, who was Enki. Now, Enki wasn't a bad dude. He was just a scientist. And he followed a code of science. But he was under the order of this guy that they call Enlil. And Enlil give him an order, and Enki being righteous by nature, he's naturally righteous, he has to obey the superior order of a superior command even if he don't agree. He told him that he couldn't do what the Queen of Heaven and Earth could do. He said, I don't care, figure it out, get it done. And he did the best he could, but it caused a lot of problems. In the process, it created a lot of birth defects, genetic infirmities, and inequalities in the genome of the human body. It was only one person on this planet at that time that could repair the genome. And a lot of the historians call him in Egypt Thoth or Jehuti. In your Bible, you see him in the Old Testament as Melchizedek, the King of Peace. And when you see this, you begin to realize that in order to clean the mess up, somebody had to make a major sacrifice, which is your Christ story. Because when you go back, every genetic event recorded in Kemet or Egypt, every genetic event, you see Thoth standing there. What happens when you get done doing the work of the repair, right? What happens? It's all fixed. Everybody has now earned the absolute right of ascension. So if you're willing to put in the work and the effort and you're willing to earn it, you can get as high as you want on this planet and in this plane. But if you want to be a lazy, selfish, self-centered slob that feels entitled, then you're on your own. You're on your own. We shouldn't have to tolerate this, and we don't. Marry the truth to the spirit, expose the beast. I'm willing to do it, but I can't do it unless the people want it done, because I'm not going to go against the will of the people. If you wish to be oppressed, that's fine. But Sun Wukong never fails. You need to understand that. Now, they said in the book, everybody was going to be waiting for somebody to crack the code. And they gave the book to the only one that could read it, and the one that read it was me. I read the book. I got the proof. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back in my temple of self and lay back, because at this time, in this day and age, we do not have to tolerate this injustice, this divide and conquer, the separation of the human families anymore. All royal families of the world gave their blood so that everyone could have a right to ascend. America became special when we granted the 13 colonies. We got sacked. We lost the war. The treaty settlement, treaty of peace and friendship. Somebody didn't like that. So King George sent his troops over here and installed an interim government under the false president George Washington. We are not under that anymore. That's expired. We are under the Continental Congress. That is our rightful standing in this land. Is the Continental Congress. It was the Iroquois Confederation of Nations. And as long as we sit here and accept this tyranny, we're going to be terrorized. They're going to call us everything. See, we're not supposed to have anything called the police. And that's why they keep shooting people in the back. And then it's bleeding over into the real enforcers of the code of righteousness that we call the sheriff, or you call him the sheriff. Now let's talk about the sheriff for a minute and trace him back. If you trace them all the way back, they go back to the Tents of Kedar. The Tents of Kedar was established to protect wayfarers from tyrants in the desert trails of trade, what they called the Silk Road. And they guarded the holy city of Mecca under these tents, and they established mighty armies of Hashashin, or sleeper cells, that at the correct time, they would all be prepared to move into action to redeem the righteous and to oust the wickedness from amongst us. We can accept it or we can reject it. Now, my motivator is, because I've been knowing this for a while, but because people seem to delight and wallow in the misery, in the self-pity, in the entitlement, and the capitalizing on the misuse of the labor and the works of others. Because of this, I wouldn't say nothing. But then my mama told me that I needed to have a child, and I ran into a young lady who wanted to have a child that broke every word she gave me, and then she expected me to honor it. My word to her. I never broke my word to her. She broke the contracts between us. When she did that, I was no longer obligated. But I'm looking at my son, right? Pay attention. And I'm asking myself, when my son become a man, my son is becoming a man, and he said, Dad, the world messed up out there. Do you know why? Yeah, I know why. You mean you actually know the problem? I said, yeah. He said, well, how do you fix it? And then I give him the answer. He said, wait a minute, Dad. Now, you knew what the problem was. You knew what the solution was, and you didn't do nothing? No. How can I explain that to him? How can I tell my son that I left the world's problem that I knew how to fix for him to fix? Now I got a dilemma. Now I got a dilemma. What do I do from here? I know I'm looking at a march towards the destruction of me. I'm watching people coming against me, but they don't know I'm watching them. They don't know that I'm seeing the slide looks and the snotty looks and the fake friend gestures that they give me, because I don't hold them responsible for what these animals has done to us as humans. I hold them responsible for when I have shown them personally and in person the issue clearly and concisely, and they still ride with the enemy. That means that they are unrighteous by nature, because when righteousness comes, unrighteousness perishes. All right? So What do? I mean, I can call them all and we can get unruly. I'd rather not. I'd rather not get unruly because we would be contributing to the blood rights that's keeping these animals in power by us killing each other. One of my pet peeves is wounded warriors. There's no way, if you study history, when warriors came back from war, they were what they called duly compensated. That means they was given they just due. So what happened over here? They give them some pennies. You don't do that to your warriors. And that's why the mothers should tell their children to come home, because if her children are fighting in the name of what they believe to be righteous, they are deceived. There's nothing righteous about any wars on this planet. Nothing righteous about them, because they're all driven by a population quelling agenda and a genocidal agenda of the human family so that some imposters can claim the entire planet for themselves. Not on my watch. So I have to speak up. I have to speak up because I have children. I have grandchildren one day if I live long enough. I have to say something that resonates so deep with the people that they understand. We don't have to live like animals. We are human beings. There's no big I's or big U's in this scenario. Our most impactful and our greatest position of power is in the unity of the human family. Now, they gave us a blueprint in Sumer to take over an entire planet. They gave us a blueprint in Sumer to take over an entire planet. And this is why they wanted to violate the gender contract and promote what they call the gay agenda. That's fine. I have no problem with a person's sexuality, his religion, his social position, and his social standing. I have no problem with his gang affiliation, with his tribal affiliation. None of that stuff bothers. The only thing bothers me is the wickedness. That's the only thing I care about getting rid of is the wickedness. So here we go. What are we going to do as a human family? Are we going to come together on our own accord and stand in unison against this beast? I go get him, but I'm not going to go get him if y'all want to wallow in the misery. The system can stay in place and you can continue to suffer. But we don't have to suffer no more. We have to treat workers with dignity and respect. I look at these corporations and they suck all of the money from the life of the worker. And I watch the worker work so hard and they have to get overtime because they can't gotta make enough to pay the bills. That's insanity. Your labor, when you sell your labor, because that's what you do when you go to work, they don't even tell you how to calculate how much you should be making hourly because it's based off a calorie burn. It's based off a calorie burn in fractional reserve labor practice, which is very similar to fractional reserve banking, where they only give you a tiny percent of what you actually generate from your labor in the burning of your calories. So your conservation of energy, you have leaks everywhere. If you patch the pipe up, if you could learn how to conserve your energy, everybody can live a very, 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 there won't be no poverty on earth. It's enough sustenance on earth to sustain the entire population. We allow these companies to dig into the earth without the proper rights of respect. And they build these mines and they extract these minerals out and don't compensate the people in the lines of demarcation. That has to stop. The easiest way for everybody to level the playing field is anything that you have to dig in the earth deeper than 3 feet, which gives the allotment for farmers to make their own stuff. Deeper than 3 feet, you have to first compensate the people in the lines of demarcation from where it comes from, because the earth is providing for those people. I'm going to give you an example. We're going to take the Saudi royal family. You got that royal family is split in 2 factions and they don't even know it. They got some that are kind and compassionate and want to help the people, but they restrained by the greedy and the selfish. So they strike oil in like 1913, and Saudi Arabia became the richest country overnight. One of the richest countries in the world overnight, and the only person they had to answer to was the Pope. Think about that. Now, they got enough oil, right? If they set a system up where people can work for a small period of their life, they can live their life in just as comfortable as the royal family. The royal family doesn't have to hoard the wealth. So what they're going to have to do is, those who believe in hoarding wealth, their own family going to have to get rid of them. Their own family going to have to get rid of them if you want to get rid of the evil. It's not the fault of the people. The people in Iran ain't bad people. But the bad people in Iran makes Iran look bad. The people of Syria are not bad people. But the bad people in Syria make Syria look bad. Everybody in America not bad people. But the bad people in America make America look bad. This is every country. Equally. The same oppressor, the same subjugation, and the same bringing it all to an end. I remember one time I heard somebody look at me and say, "Hey, are you born on the 4th of July?" Threw me for a loop. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. I can tell you this. First chance I get, UAW, auto workers, I have the first claim of right to adjust your contract in favor of the worker. Ford, Chrysler, and GM. This need to be open in public because of the lies, deceit, and treachery. They need to stop doing this stuff in back doors. You need to have all your contract negotiations out front and in the open, because that takes the element of corruption out. You can't lie to the people while they're seeing what you're doing. Now, I refuse to participate any longer in the tyranny. I haven't been to work in months. I haven't paid a bill in months. And I haven't seen my son in a couple months as a result, because they have women who think that the child should be used as a paycheck. Before I let my child be used as a poker chip, I will literally starve to death. I will starve until I don't have nothing left to eat ever again in life, until the last micro cell of my body is dissolved. I will not allow anybody to use my children as poker chips for their own economic gain, because they can lay on their lazy asses. I'm not going to participate. And just like I'm telling y'all with this war stuff, they want us to kill each other and turn on each other like wild animals. Don't participate. Mothers, tell your sons to come home, and your daughters. If they wear a uniform, no matter what they rank, tell them to come home. All you generals in the militaries around the world, when them rogues come telling y'all to go blow something up, don't do it. It's not necessary. If it was necessary, I wouldn't even say nothing about it. All this, they want us to kill each other so they can stay in power. We shouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I don't agree with it. Now, mind you, I might advocate peace, but I'm not peaceful. I advocate peace because it's in the interest of the people, and the most people can benefit the most from peace. I'm for just what's right. Just do what's right. Follow the laws of Mott. Don't get caught up in the slant that they put on your information. See, now times have changed, and we have an opportunity to place ourselves as one human family in unity across all borders and barriers. We can do that, or we can continue to walk this path of self-destruction. I remember KRS-One assembled a lot of New York artists, and they made a song called Self-Destruction. And it made so much sense to me, and made me want to be a hip-hop artist. Then, years later, a couple years later, here come I don't know who was the initiator, but the West Coast Rap All-Stars, they dropped a song called We All in the Same Gang. And y'all didn't even realize we all in the same gang for real. It's us against the tyranny. It's not us against each other. It's not for us to kill each other like wild animals. That's not for us. That's not what we're here for. The wild animals can do that. Let the lions kill the zebras out in the bush. But in the human family, we didn't operate this way. We walked in love, harmony, and peace with each other until invaders came. Now, I done been here a long time, and I done took on many forms. As you see in my name, Morpheus, meaning one who transforms, meaning one who morphs for peace, who frees us. All these things are in the alchemical name. The name had to be alchemically charged over a period of time. Now, in order to have the 100 monkey effect, in order to make the vibration of this planet uninhabitable for this beast, I had to figure out a way to get the people to chant the word, more free us. More free us. I had to figure out a way. So I attached it to the music industry, turned it into a rhythmic tone, because you know, the sacred tones is the key to all this. When you intone the correct vibration, it all comes crumbling down on his head. He can't control us with this wickedness. Now, we all know that the human seed was corrupted. And this is how, like the Saudi family have those who wish to do Mother Teresa type work with all that surplus wealth, but then you have those who wish to look at it in a vault with big eyes and be like, oh my, I'm rich. Now, the ones who want to do the Mother Teresa type work need to be in charge of the money. The other ones need to be beheaded. But that's not my responsibility. That's up to the people of the Saudi to deal with their royal family, because they need to weed out the imposters so that the people can live comfortable all over Saudi Arabia. It's the same with every one of those countries. Now, you got outside forces interfering in your personal business. You got outside forces interfering in your personal business. And the reason why this is y'all all have a common religion called Islam. And this common religion of Islam, y'all used to have something called the Caliphate. The Caliphate could enforce the Sharia law. Well, we had a Sharia law over here, and they have our Mufti, Angel Bey, indisposed, so we can't exercise our rights to our Sharia law under the Moorish Empire because they've divided us so terrible. But Malik Angel Bey is our chief mufti. He is the one in charge of enforcing the law here. What do? Accuse him of terrorism, as they always do. When somebody righteous try to do something right, they villainize him. So, whatever his order be to his people, I'm gonna get out the way. I just hope that it be a peaceful motion first. You see. Then we had a statesman. And he was to teach us business and how to interact with one another. And this man was supposed to teach us how to carry ourselves in unity and to be able to break the barriers. And we call him Larry Hoover. Larry Hoover is our statesman and our diplomat. They put him in prison, and he was about to come home. They fabricated cases. Now, everybody with a drug case, y'all need to understand something. There's a federal statute in the United States Code that says when the government commits a crime, and uses the citizenry as a method to carry out the crime, the citizenry are not responsible for that crime. In other words, everybody with a dope case is in direct violation of every portion of your United States Constitution because they are agents of the government and they're not supposed to be punished. They're supposed to have qualified immunity for anything narcotic related, as it is, because the government is the ones bringing the narcotics. Iran-Contra exposed the rats for who they were. Everybody thought Ronald Reagan was the bad guy. Ronald Reagan was scared to death. They did not tell you Nancy was forced to keep him sedated for the remainder of his life so he could never tell the story about George Herbert Walker Bush and his role with Central Intelligence and bringing all his drugs over here. But Iran-Contra Senate hearings will show you, where I don't have to prove it. They proved it to you before I even said it. This should automatically have every drug case brought to the surface. And everybody with a drug case acted as and to this day, act as an agent of government. You can continuously prove this because George Walker Bush, right now, still got troops guarding opium fields in Afghanistan. They're still there. Why are they doing it? Now, let's go a little bit deeper. Pick up that book, Behold the Pale Horse, written by William Cooper, and he tells you about the law that was passed in the late night hours by a select Senate committee in order to make George Herbert Walker Bush King George I of the United States. We count them backwards. Understand me? You have to count them backwards because it was started from King George III. Count him backwards. He was supposed to have the reins. 9/11 was their coup de grace. 9/11 was done by Dick Cheney, Donald Rumsfeld, George Walker Bush at the command of George Herbert Walker Bush in the act of treason. Bill Clinton, George Herbert Walker Bush's adopted son, was in on it in as much as he knew what was going on and continued to keep up the charade. So what do we do about this? We find a righteous man somewhere. We let him kind of like villainize him, but not really. Kind of like make him look bad, but not really. They make him look like a man, a regular man, and put him in office. And when they put him in office, they say, we'll put you in office and we're going to give you this job and you're going to have to drain the swamp. But you have to let the people believe you still following the agenda of this wicked bastard so that we can overthrow this tyranny that's suffocating everybody on earth. We looked around and there was a very eloquent supporter of Ronald Reagan and dear friend of his that loved him greatly and mourned him for a very long time, even while he was alive, because he knew what they were doing to him and he was under the threat of death. He was bound to silence. I'm not part of no organization that can threaten me. Everything that I'm part of is about redemption and righteousness. So we trained him. I tried to tell y'all, you see, we sent him to Vincent Kennedy McMahon to be seasoned in learning how to be the bad guy. So you go back and you watch wrestling and you see Donald Trump in wrestling beefing with Vincent Kennedy McMahon, learning how to be a heel. He had to learn how to be the bad guy because he's not really a bad guy. But he had to play the role. See, in order to catch a serpent, you might have to play the serpent. In order to catch a thief, you might have to play the thief. And this is all part of life. And this is all part of the way that, hey, how you doing? This is all part of the way we get from under this tyrant. So he drained the swamp. This side of the water, but we have swamplands all over the world. So when he drained the swamp, all right now, when he drained the swamp here, Vladimir Putin drained the swamp there. Nobody wanted to talk to North Korea because they went right from day one. It's not that South Korea wrong. South Korea was sequestered from North Korea in an attempt to split the nation, and they did it. But North Korea had a backer in China that kept the wolves at bay long enough for me to expose the fraud. And so when Donald Trump went to go talk to him, he told him, we don't have to keep it up no more. He is here. He's going to set the record straight. So the Vietnam War was about a $1 bet. All of those people suffered in Vietnam and died on both sides of the conflict was about a $1 bet between billionaires. It's all documented, and it's a parody of it called Coming to America. The two old men, it's not hard to find. Now, once this is exposed to the public in a sufficient format, I'm going to go back, pool all my resources, and I'm going to show you where every reference is for everything I'm telling you. They all know. Now, it's a problem I got here. Problem I got with entertainment. Because entertainment is supposed to beautify the life of humanity with art and music. It's supposed to give us plays, what we call them today, motion picture. It's supposed to give us stuff to give us a break between work and during our work phase of life where we are beautified in the mind and the heart to keep us into a loving state, an uplifted state. Next thing you know, here comes Zionists. Well, who the hell are they and where they come from? Now, they go, you anti-Semitic. I don't even know what that is. I can't find Semitics nowhere in history. How can I be against something that don't exist? So I look into this, and they got this group, two of them. One's called the Jewish Defense League, and one called Anti-Defamation League. One of them, the Jewish Defense League, are the ones that's the strong arm of the Zionist movement. They the ones that they call. It's a joke in the Screen Actors Guild in various parts of Hollywood. They call them star whackers. That's what they call them over there. They call them star whackers. But they kill entertainers that don't want to surrender their wealth after their careers. So you see what happened to Michael Jackson. You see what happened to Tupac. You see what happened to Biggie. They want us to look like it's something other than what it is. They playing, we playing. We gonna find out who got the best plan when it's all over with. Now, watch this. They go over there, they set up these companies. Now, they leave signatures behind. The Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, MGM Studios, are are very closely related to Golda Meir, who was one of the prime ministers of what we call Israel today. And they take the money from people to earn it because they feel entitled. This entitlement shit is bad, man. This is horrible. We got to get that out of the minds of the people. Nobody ain't entitled to nothing they don't earn. The only entitled person is an adolescent child. Nobody else is entitled. An adolescent child didn't ask to be here. But by the time he becomes a teen, he begins to learn how to take on the responsibility as a self. When he becomes an adult, he begins to learn how to enter into the work field and provide and produce. But some of them excel at an earlier age. So they need a different format. The educational format is controlled. If you get the book, The Protocols of the Learned Elders of Zion, it's the entire blueprint. Now, I'm going to assemble my team of researchers, and I'm going to pick it apart for y'all and show y'all, because I already did it myself, so I know everything in it there that they said they had to control the world, they already did. Not going to do, they already did it. Their signature is on all their works. So they need to be compensated for their unjust works with justice. They need to be compensated for their unjust works with justice. So now, what do? We go to Hollywood and we get rid of the Jewish Defense League's positions of power. They don't need to be there. But this is how we gonna do it so it don't cause too much disruptions in the day-to-day life. Every one of them, like example, I want Ted Fields to have to get in the UFC cage with Suge Knight and see how he fare. I want David Kenner to have to scrap with Dr. Dre and see how he fare. No, Harry-O. Send him in there with Harry-O in the joint. Let him go down there and fight Harry-O. See, Harry-O in there on some BS. You see? But he ain't no fool. So they take his money and start companies with and don't want to pay his money back to him that he earned by working for the government in sales and distribution. Working for the government. He can't be in prison for working for the government. It's not a crime to work for your government. That's patriotic at heart. He was working for your government. The same with Freeway Ricky Ross. He was working for your government, but when Russell Poole exposed him, now they got to lock him up because the government don't want you to know they behind it, because then you're going to start asking questions. When you start asking questions, you're going to find out that it's a rogue faction of government. We've been infiltrated. Well, when did it happen? Go back. Dwight D. Eisenhower, leaving office, his farewell address, he told you about military-industrial complex and the potential of its power of oppression of all people on earth. America has assembled its military force to call the Leviathan force around the world under the military-industrial complex. Now, if you know your biblical text, you know what the Leviathan is, the great beast. You know what it is. You know who is behind it. But it ain't the people of America. It's a rogue faction within the government of America that's pushing this agenda. What do? We drain the swamp. Now we gave Donald Trump a job to get the imposters out at high levels of politics, and he exposed Hillary and her husband, William Jefferson Clinton. And he exposed, he haven't exposed them, but he is addressing it, has addressed it. Your Bushes, your Rumsfelds, your Cheneys, they all know what's up. They all in on it together. There's only one of these jackals I ain't quite figured out yet, so I'm not going to put his name in here. Because it looked like, but he might have been going to the right. So I'm not going to mention him. I have to talk to my elders that know him better than I do in order to determine if what I see is really what I see. Because at the close of the age, as you get closer to where I'm at, more deception is exposed, so the righteous have to use a greater deception than the deceiver. So sometimes the misdirection is confusing. I could go do the math on it, but I haven't done it yet because I don't want it really to be true, and I want to give the people an opportunity. Now, politics, as we see it, is corrupt. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It's corrupt. We need to revamp the whole system in every nation around this planet. One country at a time, but everybody got to start at home first. Everybody at home got to get the imposters out their house. When all of the imposters is in the streets, then we know what we up against. You know, that fake love, fake hugs, that shit. It's over. Now, all of the ones responsible, they gonna have an opportunity to defend themselves with the facts. But if they can't defend themselves with the facts and satisfy the people, they're gonna have to get in that cage. And the ones that they wrong can pick who they want to resolve the matter. See, we got Dana White in this UFC stuff. And we got him there for a reason. Dana White's job is to make it, he was to help Europe develop their own fighting style on the heels of what happened in Babylon. Everybody gave a drop of blood, and then Europe was supposed to develop to their own level of greatness so that they can have their name in the history books. This was supposed to be done as Greeks, but they were sacked by Rome and raped by Rome, figuratively and literally. Figuratively and literally. All of this stuff is verifiable and will be verified with the facts in written form and video format. I'm going to do all of this work to show y'all. Now, I did a lot of work to get where I'm at now because I wouldn't be here if I didn't. I did a whole lot of research, investigation for a long time to find out why are we suffering like we are. I did the work. I got some more work now. While the imposters are being weeded out, they're going to all be sent to Dana White to get in that cage. And the people they directly undermine are going to pick who they get to fight with. If they lose, then we're going to send them out to the gallows. We're going to send them out to the gallows, sever their heads. Because you can't do people like that. Mama say you can't throw people away like trash, and I agree. And everybody out of Nax agree the same way. Even the ones I thought was inherently wicked say, nah, man, you can't just throw people away. But what are we doing? Look around you in the streets. You know? They tell you that it's okay to shoot people in the back. It's justifiable homicide. The policy enforcers, because when you look the word up, it goes back to the word policy. What the hell is that? We supposed to be under the Sharif by county, and we supposed to be nationally under the Marshal. The Marshal is the federal arm of the Sharif. This is our rightful structure that they undermine. So that's what they do. They undermine stuff. So it's time to break free from the tyranny on earth. And I'm going to work with anybody that want to break free from the tyranny on earth. Anybody that they don't have to stay here. They can leave. They can go. Too many people died trying to figure out how to overcome this obstacle, including me, more than once, more than twice, to try to overcome this obstacle. So when the blood was given, all of the priests of the world performed rites that all of their greatest warriors would consolidate into one soul at one time in one place. And at that time, he would be the worst of all of the warriors ever created. He would be Apollyon, the destroyer. You can call him Morpheus Mysticus Megas, the emissary of light, the redeemer of the righteous. Here, to exalt the sons of righteousness back to their rightful place and to put this tyranny down once and for all. So before we allow these people to send our children off to war, stop. Before we allow these tyrants to send our children off to war, stop. Call them home. Call them all home. They don't have to fight for these people. They don't owe them nothing. Nobody is entitled to have your child die for them but you. And that's at you and your child's honor of a family that you do that. You don't do that for the honor of a tyrant, of somebody that want to suck the blood out of you and your family. You don't send your children to die for that. That's wrong. It's unjust. And it must be fixed and corrected. When you commission warriors to go to war, you commission them under the code of righteousness to perform a righteous deed to get rid of wickedness. Anybody want to send your child to war just to send them to war so they can get some money is a damn fool and an evil tyrant and need to be overthrown. So, what do we do, people? Do we finally say get rid of the evil, or do we say bring more of it on down? Because if you don't want to get rid of it, the only thing left is all out chaos. Because order has to be established from the chaos. The level of chaos now can be peacefully resolved. But if we don't peacefully resolve it now, it has to be intensified so it can be violently resolved. Mama said to give most people the opportunity as possible for liberation. This is the opportunity. Call your children home. Tell them don't fight no wars. Don't join nobody military if it ain't part of your family. And our families and our tribes, they call us gangs. They call us gangs and villainize us and tyrants, and they call us terrorists. They're wrong. So for the Middle East to be straightened out, they need to reform the caliphate, because they need somebody to speak for the Muslims across all barriers. My nomination for those in the Middle East would be, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to allow them to assemble their own council and put their own leadership in place. You have to have a caliphate in Islam. That's the order. That's the structure, and it's the correct order. In the meantime, in Islam, all male Muslims must protect these females now. Stop letting these tyrants come in like they righteous and take your daughters. Don't feed this beast your children. All Islamic countries need to cease with the slave trading shit, because the tyrant used the righteousness of Allah when they changed her name to Allah, so that y'all didn't know that the Queen of Heaven was y'all guardian and y'all overseer. Y'all have a picture, y'all have a symbol of her yoni on your black stone. Your black stone is me. I'm the stone the builders rejected. How do I know this? Earlier I spoke about the Mufti, Angel Bay, founder of the 21 brick pyramid. But they say 20 more because one of the bricks ain't there no more. From that brick, there was a name on it, Larry Hoover. And under Larry Hoover, I came about. I came about by strange circumstances. My mother was a queen of the Vice Lords when they were a biker gang in the 50s. My children are all Stones in Chicago. I'm stuck in the middle. I can't fight with nobody. Everybody love me, and I love them, so I can't fight with nobody. I can't condone Vice Lords going against GDs, because that would be like me going against my mother. I can't condone the GDs fighting against the Stones, because that's like me fighting my children. What insanity? I'm not with that insanity. Extends all the way out to the West Coast, because you know we got Hoover Crips. I'm rolling 60s. Do the math. Stoop, tell them, do the math for them. Put it on public display. Anybody confused about this, it's going to be clear real soon what I'm talking about. Analyze what I'm saying. Don't just accept it. Don't just accept nothing I'm telling you. Analyze it. Go do your research. Send your preacher back to school, because they're all teaching you wrong. Matter of fact, don't send him to school. Send him to Geno Jenkins over there. He going to get him right. He going to teach him how to research according to righteousness. But first, the fruit got to correct where he was wrong at. He righteous, but he ain't right. They know what I'm talking about, fruit, right? He righteous, but he ain't right. And he'll give you the stage. So, we need to get back into the harmony of life, and the melody of life, and the beautification of those things around us with art and entertainment. You know, I love music. And I love music across all genres. And one of my favorite artists, Tupac Amaru Shakur, my brother. I miss that rider music, man. I miss that. And so I decided to write something for myself, and I'm gonna go record it and put it out there for y'all, so y'all can understand what I'm talking about. But we need that rider music, because they took our war drum. They took our war drum because they didn't want us talking on the drum. But what Buju say? Through that mystical communication within, we keep on coming together. I love to see when brothers and sisters looking out for one another. This is the redemption song. This is the Exodus that Marley speak of. Now, I can get long-winded, but I'm not. Because I don't want to give y'all so much information you refuse to look anything up. It's over. Their reign is up. The reign of terror on earth is over as long as the people want it over. If you don't believe me, ask Trump, ask Putin, and all the other heads of state on this planet. They all know what I'm talking about. I don't have to prove anything. I already proved it when I broke the code of the ages. When I cracked the curse, I shattered the chains of hell, because that's where we were. Hueco Mundo. Watch soap. Call me Ichigo. So, I'm going to let y'all digest what I just said. We can fall victim to the tyrant, or we can take our ball and go home. Start doing family stuff. Act like he ain't even here. Act like they ain't even here. But if they get unruly, and we have to do it the hard way, we prepared for that too. And this is a message for all law enforcement. If you don't know how to deal with people, drop your badge. I don't care where. If you don't know how to communicate with people, drop your badge. If you scared to be a policeman, drop your badge. It won't be no more policemen coming up. We're going to have all Sharif. As soon as I go get my Angel Bay, he will be telling all Sharif Sharia law in detail, and they will enforce it correctly. And they're not going to be tyrannically abusing people. See, they had y'all thinking that only black people were getting shot down in the streets. That's not true. That's not true. They shoot more white people. But in America, it's more white people than black people. Well, it's now starting to level out where we have an unstable census report. But we're gonna be done with this. It's over. And I'm not playing. And I've already been verified and confirmed. I'm not joking. And this is not a game. Take your ball, go home. Mothers, call your children from that military. I don't care if you're in Lithuania, Czechoslovakia, China, Korea, Japan, France, Italy, England, Canada, the United States, Mexico, South America, anywhere. Call your children home. We ain't fighting for these animals. We not finna be killing ourselves like this. Not on my watch. This is my watch. So I'm going to put the message out there, and I'm going to let them spread it on their own. But it's time to take this home. It's time for us to reclaim what's rightfully ours by the code of righteousness with dignity and respect and with honor. And that our sons be able to shine your light. Shine. We can all shine now. Ain't no more division. We all got the right to shine now. Let us all shine. So I ain't gonna keep y'all tied up. I just had to get something off my chest. I got some business I gotta go take care of. And somewhere, somebody real important I need to see, but I can't quite figure out where she at. My son's gonna come get me and take me to her, so I'm not worried about it. But this message had to be put on the wire. Given the opportunity to go viral, be spread. But I got a feeling where it's gonna play at. Let it play. I wants to go get rid of the beast once and for all. But I don't want to do nothing that people don't want. So if y'all don't want freedom, I don't want to bring it. But if y'all want freedom, I will bring freedom. I will bring liberation. But if don't nobody want freedom, love, and liberation, I can also bring hell and destruction. I have full command of the armies of heaven and hell. I can cause some shit you don't even know exists. I would rather not do that, because that's not what I'm here for. I was asked to be as patient and wise as possible in establishing a peaceful regime on earth again, because it was like this under the Atlanteans, in which I was the chief priest of the Atlant. It's hard to get all of this energy rewired back through the divergent, convergent synthesis process. I needed a whole lot of priests over a long time. So you see, that's why they were in caves, because they had to pass this energy and do these rituals in order to make sure that we can break this demon's stronghold. And I was the only one capable of doing it. And so they figured that if they got rid of me and kept me from coming to help you, they can hold y'all in hostages and slaves forever. But they forgot I never fail. I never lose. Even when they think I lose, I'm still winning, because the only way that they was able to get me to lose is self-sacrifice. And self-sacrifice is the highest form of honor and dignity in the existence of creation. Yeah, a whole lot of people done it following my lead. Put themselves in adverse situations and try to survive it. If they didn't, then they already knew what would happen, as in Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Medgar Evers. And I can go on with that for hours. So I'm not going to do a roll call on the ancestors that fell. But what I will tell y'all is this. Keep your heads up. Look forward to the future. Without the tyrant's reign. I'm going to get him out of here one way or the other. Y'all can help me by taking y'all ball and going home all over the planet. Or y'all can just sit back and don't do nothing and don't say nothing. And I can call some shit y'all going to be totally flabbergasted about. And if you think I'm joking, just look overhead and be surprised at what you see. I am not joking. This is not a game. And with that, Trump, it's your turn. You up.